To me, I know that you are going to be having, what is it, a march today?
Yes, sir. We're more like a protest, standing in solidarity with the family of Jacob Blake. His family called him Jake. So we're going to be standing in solidarity with the family of Jake. They thought they killed him. They thought they had another Stephon Clark and he lived. So the family wants to stand in solidarity to honor the fact that. Can you hear me?
I got you. Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah, to honor the fact that he's here with us and and his life has not been taken.
What do you make of what we're seeing? Here again, we're talking about this. Here again, we're looking at someone who has been unarmed and shot by police.
I think until we start taking steps further than protests, further than marching, and we start taking steps when it comes to actionable items, when it comes to bridging the gap between law enforcement and at-risk communities, until we take the necessary steps at bridging the gap between law enforcement and at-risk communities, then these types of atrocities will continue to happen. Because
And
we're not bridging the gap. We're not having the dialogue the way we need to have. We need to have.
well, we see today the NBA boycotting players saying they're not going to play based on what happened. What do you think of that?
I think that's big. I think that's big. Like how you see the NFL standing up and doing the PSA. How you see Kim Kardashian entertainers standing up, we're sharing the petitions. Now you see the NBA boycotting the playoffs and the Milwaukee Bucks, I believe. This is just it's good that people are standing in solidarity and doing what they need to do to be heard when it comes to calling for accountability on their platforms. But like I said, Chris, we need to take it a step further when it comes to more actionable items, and that means we have to start sitting down with these law enforcement officials and find out what the hell is going on. And Sacramento is standing with those in Kenosha, Wisconsin, when it comes to this atrocity because we shouldn't be here again. It's too soon. It happens too often, too frequently. This is a club nobody wants to be a part of. Even though Jacob Blake did not die, he is still part of a club no one wants to be a part of. Yes, enough is enough. We're sick and tired of getting killed in the streets like dogs. Respect us. We are people, not property, and we should be respected and treated as such. It feels like they respect property more than people. And I've been saying this numerous times since the death of my brother. Justice delayed is justice denied. Those cops should have been fired, charged, and prosecuted as soon as that video and that footage came out. That is unacceptable. His children were there. His children witnessed that. This is unacceptable and it's uncalled for. And if he was a different color and he lived in a different neighborhood, probably we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Well, and so that's why we're seeing some of the things that we're seeing across the country. We're having our national conventions. Last week was the Democratic National Convention. This week, the Republican National Convention. People trying to decide what they want to do in November. I know one of the things that you were saying is it's not enough to protest, that people have to make their voices heard at the ballot box.
Yeah, we have to make our voices heard at the ballot box. Another thing we have to do is get rid of the electoral college, okay? Because Trump lost the popular vote, but he won with the electoral college. We have to get rid of that stuff, okay? Because that stuff it's unconstitutional. The people should have the power. The people should have the vote. Our votes do count. Our votes do matter. I want to influence everybody, especially our young people, to go out there and vote, vote, vote. We need to get anybody in there who's going to represent our fights, our rights, and our causes in the way that speaks to us personally, because we're tired of people saying things and not following up. We're tired of politicians letting power, popularity, and profits over people. Enough is enough.
Well, you make a good point as we start to talk about this. I mean, as we all look to what's going to happen, what do you want? What are you saying to people who come out today at 6 o'clock?
I'm saying come out and bring your face mask. Make sure you be prepared to socially distance from everybody. We're following the requirements set by our governor. We're going to go out there and we're going to do a small little protest, maybe a walk around from the DA's office to either Cesar Chavez Park or the mural, the Stephon Clark mural. We'll have a moment of silence for Jacob Blake, not because he didn't die, but because it's a moment of silence for the family, the kids that have to sit there and watch their father almost get assassinated or attempted to be assassinated in front of their eyes. His children should have never had to experience that. So we're going to have a moment of silence for his children and for Jacob Blake as well and the family. Let them know we're standing in solidarity with them. Respect their fight, respect their life, and we're sorry that this happened to them. But whatever we could do, the Clark family, whether it comes to emotional support or financial support, we are there.
Well, and let me ask you this. What do people need to know about logistics? What's the plan? Where should they gather?
They should all gather at the district attorney's office. I think it's 910 I Street, I believe.
901G Street is what the thing has?
901 G Street. Sorry about that. 901 G Street, the district attorney's office. We will be meeting there at 901 G Street at the district attorney's office at 6 p.m. And it's not going to be long. It's just going to be a call for accountability, a few chants, hear from a few speakers, a little walk up the street, and everybody go home. But don't think we're going home as we're stopping the protest. We're going home because we're ready to plan for actionable items. I'm not with the just protesting and protesting and protesting. I'm with doing the work. Enough talking, more action. I'm with the action, not the talking.
What type of action do you want to see in this one?
Well, I want to see, number one, I want to start talking about how we're going to bridge the gap between law enforcement and at-risk communities. I want to talk about how we're going to inform and educate policy and legislative change so things like this never happen again. I want to also talk to people about receiving recommendations from communities and from our elders and from our council members on how to prevent these types of atrocities from ever happening again. We want to talk about how do we commemorate the life and legacy of Stephon in a positive light by speaking up for the family of Jacob Blake. We want to also talk about providing resources and healing space for those in our community, because if our kids don't have the resources and healing spaces, these types of atrocities, I believe, will keep happening again and again and again. We want to talk about the solutions, not just the problem, but the solutions.
Very good. And what about some of the violence and things that we've seen, Mr. Clark? We've seen some of that. We've seen, some of the violent things that have happened during the protest. That's not what this is about, right? This is about peaceful protests demanding change.
Yes, the things I've been seeing on the recent media and the news, I don't even want to speak on it because I don't even want to talk about that evil spirit. That is evil. That is not the spirit of the protest. That is not the heart of the movement. These are people that come from out of state and people that are not a part of the fight, people who want to call divisive rhetoric in our country, put us against each other. It won't work. It will not work. So, I just feel like, it's sad that we live in this world that we live in, but this is the reality of the world that we live in.
So we're back with our crisis acting family, but they're the most likable ones. You got to give them that. But I'm going to show you how they continue to live their entire rest of their lives being justice warriors and attending all of these protests, basically. And it seems like they're consumed with that for the rest of their lives. I want to show you how people are placed into their positions with the city or whatever, and they're placed on purpose because when the downfall happens, they'll be easy scapegoat. Like Stevante Clark was going to run for mayor. I don't even know how he was going to do that when his family had a $35 million lawsuit against the city. That would be a conflict of interest. Let's take a quick look at the family real quick.
I had got really curious as to how come she didn't take forefront like the mother she is.
I was kind of side-eyeing the mother's actions and the whole family, actually, because they just seem to be doing too much. So that's how come I got suspicious of them right away. And then I just wanted to see what was up with his mom since we didn't hear from her.
Because as we can see, Stevante is her child. Right here. And what's he carrying? Change has come to America. Obama shatters racial barriers. Okay, you know what? So this is part of the people that Obama got in here into this country while he was during his presidency. But here we go with Stephon. This is Stephon. He loves it when we call him Big Papa. This is in 2009. But still, this is the only pictures that she has of her kids. Like right here is it. So I guess these are all her kids. This just all looks weird to me. This is her daughter. When did she post this? So she posted all of these pics of her kids in 2009. Was it on the same day? Yeah, it was on the same day.
It's weird how Stevante is the only one that really looks like himself. And they had another brother that died as well. And the picture that they show of Stephon didn't even look like him. So all this stuff was questionable, especially since she posted all these pics on the same day. It's like you were starting to try to build a profile.
One picture of all her kids. And the one she has of Stephon, mind you, he is like so young. Like I wouldn't even have guessed that was Stephon. And if you ask me, he looks like him.
So as we've seen, Stevante has his Obama paper in his hands, for his picture. What I also find weird too is how they're never saying their name of their other brother that died. I could have swore he got shot. Why do we never hear about that brother and justice for him? All three sons dealt with what's going on, the system. So not only was his mom's social media weird, but his own social media was weird. I usually just look at the person's pattern, like how much they're posting pictures, uploading pictures. I mean, this is a 22-year-old. He hadn't posted onto social media since 2017, July of 2017. Almost, what was that, a year before he died? That's crazy for a 22-year-old. And then 2016 was the next time he posted something. His son is so cute. It was so cute. But 2016. And then we go all the way to 2014. So he had a 2-year hiatus from posting anything on Facebook, which is weird for a young person with this generation because, you know, they're so into the technology. And then all the way to 2013, it's just like, dude did not post anything. So 2013, he was already driving. Well, I guess so. He would have been 16, I guess. And they use this picture a lot, and it's from 2012. I'm saying, like, when somebody dies, can you use recent pictures of them so we can, like, remember them how they really were, not how they were years before they died, when they were really young and innocent and probably not getting into any trouble? For some reason, this picture hecka reminds me of Trayvon Martin. Did I see a picture of Trayvon Martin doing this very same thing? If somebody seen that picture, can you let me know? Because I swear I seen a picture of Trayvon Martin doing this. And then this picture, which was widely distributed, is from 2011. Why don't you use pictures of these people closer to when they died? He looked nothing like this in 2018. To get a reality picture, not these church pictures from way back when he was 15. 2010. Okay, so this kind of tripped me out because I saw this and I saw his hand, but now I'm seeing here that it's from 2010. But this picture was posted at 2011, and those look like tattoos to me. So what 15-year-old is allowed to have tattoos? That's part one of the problem, most likely. So as you see, the family had weird social media habits, let's just say. But Stevante Clark uploads on a daily now. And as far as Stephon in this picture, like, this just told it to me all what this family was about. Because this was posted in 2009 on his mom's social media. And it's about Obama. Change has come to America, you know. So this already is clearly letting me know that this is a family who's going to stand for democratic wants and needs because this is what they were brought in on. It's just simple as that. I mean, people, I guess, will just choose to ignore the fact of anything, but you know, pretty soon they're gonna rename streets in Sacramento after Stephon. And his brother, the one that was the most standoffish one, but I guess he didn't have no record, now he becomes a social justice warrior and is fighting for all these people's rights that got shot by the police, like just like Jake Blake, you know, he got shot at 20 times too, just like his brother. It's just weird how now he's even got a position as an advisory person on a committee, you know, so he's a city employee, but I guess he's also gets paid to go to these protests, because how is he going on work time? Because that makes no sense. These people are placed into the positions that they end up in. This was probably part of the agreement. He's gonna be mayor one day. Watch. Because he just didn't run now because he probably wouldn't have won.
Reverend Al Sharpton delivering the eulogy for George Floyd in Minneapolis today.
My heart breaks for the family of George Floyd.
Tonight, Stevante Clark recalling it was just a few years back that Reverend Sharpton came to Sacramento to eulogize his brother Stephon, who was also killed by police.
We did not come for you uppity, bourgeois, proper folk. We came for Stevante. We came for the family. We came because this boy should be alive today.
Clark says he's living proof that police violence has long-lasting impacts on families.
Yeah, I went through a lot, you know, being ostracized, being talked about, being in jail, being in mental institutions.
392 is now law in the state of California.
But he was there standing by the governor's side as a new law, AB 392, authorized officers to use deadly force only when necessary to prevent imminent and serious bodily injury or death.
You know, I think if we invest in our children when it comes to resource centers, when it comes to de-escalation tactical teams, when it comes to cleanup crews around the city, when it comes to providing for our people as one, because there's not black and white. There's the human race.
Clark says it meant a lot to see the governor out helping clean up after the unrest here in the capital city.
And Gavin Newsom knows, and he will tell you too, Chris, that if Stephon or George Floyd looked like him and lived in his community, in his background, in his neighborhood, they'd still be alive today. They would still be alive today.
I thought of my brother. I thought of Eric Garner. I thought of Ahmaud Arbery. I thought of Sean Reed. I thought of all the innocent brothers that should be here with us today.
What message are you sending to the community being out here today?
Everybody love everybody. We're out here in love. This is a love thing, and we're not against anybody. This is non-violent. We are not anti-law enforcement, but we believe in accountability on all levels. Accountability on all levels. And we still want the chief to do what's right and fire those 2 killer cops who assassinated my brother in my grandmother's backyard. So, I'm here to do what I can do to be a voice and vessel for my brother, but also keep the name George Floyd alive. Just like Stephon has a legacy, George Floyd has a legacy. And may his name, like Stephon, be remembered for generations, generations, and generations. Generations. So,
this has really changed your life. I mean, you're at a lot of these events, unfortunately. For you.
Yeah, I'm at a lot of these events because, whatever I could do to make sure this never happens again in Sacramento and my community, I'm going to do. However I can use my voice to be a vessel for my brother to prevent things from happening like this again, I'm going to do that. So I'm out here to be a voice and vessel for my brother, but also let the family of George Floyd know that if they're watching, I don't know if they watch our local news here, but if they do get to see this, I want them to know that you're not in this alone, and welcome to a club that no one wants to be a part of.
How impressed are you with the people who are pretty peaceful and behaving themselves?
Jameer is one of the guys who helped put this together, and I think he did a great thing about putting it together. He's never done something wrong. I've never seen him do a protest where people have gotten hurt. It's always been right. He's always been righteous. I love this brother. He's a good organizer. He's a brother in the movement, and we stand with him in solidarity. The right activists and the right people who've been affected by these types of instances need to be connected, and he is who I go to when I need to be connected when it comes to the activism on the streets, on the front line.
Because there's not black and white. There's the human race.
Stephon Clark!
Stephon Clark! Family and supporters of Stephon Clark commemorated what would have been the man's 25th birthday. Happy birthday to police use of force.
There's no justice, no peace.
Stephon Clark's mother, Sequette Clark, and family continue to push to keep his memory alive by calling for changes to police use of force policies.
I want to see true systemic change in California, Sacramento first, California next, and then the world.
We still fight for accountability on all levels. The fight does not stop. The fight gets amplified,
Organizers hope to hold the event at Discovery Park, but county officials have banned large gatherings to prevent the spread of coronavirus and opted to close the park instead. County officials also cite sewer work scheduled for this day at the park. Clark's family believes the park closure was targeted.
Because they're anti-Stephon Clark.
Yes, Stevante Clark is being booked into the Sacramento County Jail right now. He was arrested by Sacramento police officers earlier this afternoon, and CBS 13 has obtained some photos of that arrest, and it shows those plainclothes officers arresting Stevante Clark. Those police officers, members of the Career Criminal Apprehension Team. The charge is felony battery, and it's stemming from a domestic violence case. Again, a felony warrant. Now, Clark is the brother of Stephon Clark, as you mentioned, who was killed by Sacramento police in 2018, the deadly shooting prompting protests. And Stevante Clark jumped onto the Sacramento City Council dais at one point during one of those protests in an effort to disrupt that City Hall meeting. Now, he has since developed relationships with elected leaders and is currently an appointed member of the Measure U Advisory Committee. But again, that breaking news coming in right now. Stevante Clark has been arrested on a felony warrant stemming from domestic violence. He is being booked into the Sacramento County Jail right now, and his bail is currently set at $50,000.
Today I come before you with a heavy heart. As a once proud citizen of Sacramento, it pains me to know that the Sacramento Police Department has targeted another one of my sons. Their blatant excessiveness displayed while arresting my son was shameful and traumatic. My 9-year-old daughter, Kaylin, and my mother, who were both present at the murder of Stephon Clark in my mother's backyard where we sit today, were both present when the Career Criminal Tactical Team tracked my son Stevante down to arrest him in front of my home, not Stevante's home, but my home, while he was taking my groceries in. They got out of the car to apprehend my son was a scene from a movie. My daughter and my mother were traumatized beyond belief. My daughter was falling out, crying, sobbing, scared for her brother's life, as I was. After the display of the events with my son being arrested, it saddens me to see that we have not made any progress.
Claiming that he was shot at 20 times, when that's not true. I mean, the cops said they shot 5 to 6 times each. There's no way 20 shots was fired. This is what they claim in every report. A Sacramento native, he lived in a rough neighborhood known not only for crime but also for tense relations with police, said residents and civil rights leaders. Clark endured personal tragedy within his family. A sister died at birth. A 16-year-old brother was killed in a shooting in 2006. A representative with county coroner said DeMarcus McKinney died from what was ruled an accidental shotgun wound to the abdomen. Okay, first of all, I don't even know how he has a different last name, but obviously they all have different dads. McKinney, that sounds real familiar, but anyways, how was it ruled an accidental shotgun to the abdomen? I mean, how is that possible unless he shot himself? And what would a 16-year-old have been doing with a shotgun to begin with? And if he didn't shoot himself, then it had to be one of his family members that shot him. And what would they have been doing with a shotgun, like one of his siblings? It's really weird how we hear nothing about this brother from any of the family members on any of the social media sites. Like, you don't really see his pictures or anything about him representing, like they're not repping him, you know? I see like one picture here, you know, from years ago, but there's no mention of him. And who shot him? That's really what I would want to know. And Clark had a criminal history, 4 cases in 4 years that included charges of robbery, pimping, and domestic abuse. Sacramento County court files show he pleaded no contest to reduce charges, spent time on sheriff's work detail, and was on probation for the 2014 robbery when he was killed. This information along with other stuff, but this main information alone is enough to let me know why he was running. Because in California, if you're on probation or parole, simple police contact is a violation in itself. So he would have been going to jail that night if they caught him. What matters is he was a father of 2. He had his family. He was an unarmed black man that was going to his grandparents' house and got assassinated. Nothing else matters at this point. So it doesn't matter that he was jumping fences and breaking windows. None of that matters, right? Is that how we usually get to grandma's house? Crazy how people just want to ignore it too. NAACP Sacramento chapter president Betty Williams was more blunt. Or the context of African American culture and trauma by police is more relevant. If you understand most of the culture of African Americans in the city, when police officers get near us, there's a nervousness, Williams said. The urge to run is prevalent, she said. I think understanding our culture and our young men being traumatized so much, their first reaction is not the first reaction of a white male. Okay, so we're supposed to excuse black suspects running away, you know, but not white suspects, because they should start getting killed now. And they do get killed, by the way. You know, everybody gets killed by the police. Everybody that runs and everybody that can't obey orders, these are the people that usually succumb to death. It doesn't matter what race you are.
I'm the grandmother, and I found my grandson back there dead. They haven't not came and apologized. They haven't even said nothing. We haven't even seen them. We don't even know where they at now. But, you know, so we're fighting for justice. You know, it's not about no lawsuit stuff. It's about justice. And I thank God for that AB 392.
The Clark family aren't the only ones in search of accountability. Also present at today's event were several mothers whose sons died at the hands of police officers.
My son passed July 22nd, 2010, the day before his 17th birthday. So I've been organizing and fighting for justice for almost 9 years now regarding my son's death. Still no justice, but like I said again, I'm here to celebrate Sacramento and stand with them to let them know that we got their backs too.
And some final words from Stevante.
I would like to say one more thing. Everybody love everybody. That's it. That's all I want to say is everybody love everybody.
And this small but monumental embrace between Sacramento Police Chief Daniel Hahn and the brother of Stephon Clark, who was shot and killed by Sacramento officers in his grandmother's backyard. They thought he had a gun. It turned out to be a cell phone.
How's the family doing?
The family's doing okay. They're doing okay. We just all taking one day at a time. And this helps me by going around and talking to the youth and talking to the elderlies and getting these speed bumps and all this kind of things that's going to be going on. I'm going to have to better it, yes.
You heard her. Clark's grandmother tells me she spoke with the police chief about neighborhood improvements, like bringing more speed bumps to the area.
But to see the chief come and make time to speak with you, how'd you feel?
To be honest, I couldn't really, I was like in shock.
Who can forget the massive protest sparked by the Clark shooting? Demonstrators shut down the interstate and kicked off a cry for justice heard around the world, with Clark's brother Stevante leading the charge.
To see community with police in such high tense moments right now, I think this is good for my brother's legacy. You know, I'm always about my brother's legacy, and part of my brother's legacy is bringing people who wouldn't normally get together.
The Clark family's relationship with police evolving from confrontation
20 times
to collaboration, with Clark's birthday just days away on Saturday.
You know, if we had this conversation a year ago, I would never see me having a conversation or being in the same vicinity as the Chief Daniel Hahn. But the Chief is a normal person, he's a good guy. And, you know, I think he wants to help the community. I think he wants to bring people together.
The chief.
Stephon is textbook middle child.
It's a powerful PSA, to say the least.
He's the one who picks the team spirit back up.
Sacramento's Stephon Clark is the 5th person featured in the NFL's Inspired Change PSA, which hopes to create positive change and end systemic racism.
I've seen it at least 25 times. At least.
Stevante Clark says he's proud and thankful the NFL is shining a national spotlight on a local icon, his brother Stephon.
Yeah, I think it's a positive way to commemorate the life and legacy of Stephon Clark.
In the PSA, we see family photos, Stephon Clark's neighborhood, and snapshots of front pages of newspapers. The 22-year-old's death made national news 2 years ago when he was shot and killed by Sacramento police in his grandmother's backyard after officers mistook his cell phone for a gun. The PSA is narrated by his mother, Sequette, who relives the moment her son was gunned down.
He's scared, but he made it home. He's thinking safe, but he wasn't.
Grandma's house is usually where you go to escape the world. And if you're not safe at grandma's house, then where are you safe?
The PSA also mentions the Stephon Clark law, which makes deadly force justified only to defend against an imminent threat of death or serious injury. It marks the 2nd time Stephon Clark's case has made national news in the last 3 weeks. Kim Kardashian recently retweeted a petition calling for justice, and Stevante says it's all just the beginning of an even bigger movement.
I'm hoping people can see this and say, you know what, this is not right.
Shouted freedom to new calls for justice tonight. Perhaps the most famous woman on social media is putting a national spotlight on Sacramento. Kim Kardashian is calling for the officers who shot and killed Stephon Clark 2 years ago to be indicted on charges.
Yeah, Kim Kardashian West tells me she's passionate about getting the word out. Well, she just recently learned about Stephon Clark's death. She's glad that a new light is being brought to his story and hopes more people will sign this petition. A single tweet with close to 6,000 likes sent by Kim Kardashian to her 6.5 million Twitter and 179 million followers on Instagram is bringing new attention to Stephon Clark and the Sacramento police officers who shot and killed him in 2018.
It makes it very clear to me that the world understands, not only me and you, but Kim Kardashian understands that the officers who killed my brother in my grandmother's backyard while he was unarmed should be held accountable.
In the social media post, Kardashian asked for people to sign a petition to indict the 2 officers who shot Clark. Clark's brother, Stevante, hopes the recognition will help his fight for justice.
What I hope is that people get this message from Kim Kardashian West and the Clark family that what happened to Stephon should not have happened, and the goal is to prevent that from ever happening again.
The media mogul has helped in the release of multiple people from jail and is vocal on bringing attention to social justice issues. Tiana Parker, Stephon's sister, reached out to Kardashian on Instagram after modeling for her brand.
Even if, like I said, it does not go further, I'm just really grateful for the help.
I mean, I'm just grateful that we have allies in these situations, and that's what we need.
County and state officials declined to file charges against the two officers, but attorney Mark Reichel believes this new spotlight could change that.
If a new DA is elected in the next couple of years, they could actually bring those charges if they decide to. As well, there is no actual double jeopardy between the state and the federal government.
Enough is enough. I am sick and tired of the smear campaign against my brother, who is no longer here to defend himself.
A fiery response tonight from the family of Stephon Clark. It was just last night here on the LNT. We told you about the California District Attorneys Association calling for the NFL to take down its new Stephon Clark PSA, produced by the league's Inspired Change Initiative. Well, just hours.
Shame not only on Schubert, shame on the California District Attorneys Union. Shame.
In the PSA, we see family photos, Stephon Clark's neighborhood, and snapshots of headlines after the 22-year-old's death made national news 2.5 years ago. He was shot and killed by Sacramento police after officers mistook his cell phone for a gun. The PSA.
And I'm fighting for justice to the day I die.
The family says they consider it an insult to injury that California district attorneys are now asking the league to, quote, re-examine the factual findings of Stephon Clark's death and produce a video that accurately depicts the conduct of all concerned in the officer-involved shooting.
The video is really a disservice rather than a public service because it omits crucial facts that preceded Mr. Clark's tragic death.
The family disagrees and is now calling for action of their own for the Sacramento District Attorney Anne-Marie Schubert to step down or be recalled.
I hate March 18th. I don't want to celebrate that day. I hate that day. We're heavy every day, and so it's hard for us to socialize, or we don't want to go to certain events because we don't want to bring, despair or depression to that, and so we needed a place to where we could feel ourselves.
Mothers shared their stories and gave each other hope as they continued to heal from losing their son or daughter.
I feel normal today. I don't feel weird. I feel normal.
Something Clark tells me she hasn't been able to feel since her son died.
I'm just trying to breathe every day. Just trying to remember to breathe. That's what I do. So for now, that's what's next, breathing.
Organizers of the Mother's Brunch explained the importance of events like these for those struggling with finding a sense of normalcy after experiencing the loss of a child.
So this right here is healing for them. It's also giving a platform for them to have their voice and to see that. And another thing is the youth voice have been a wave of power.
Oh, I just feel love today. I got chills and love because everybody's here. People came from all over. People came from out of town.
Sequita Thompson was there as this memorial sign was unveiled in her grandson's honor. It now sits in the family's front yard as they work with the city to have the street renamed after the father of two. The family feels it's the least the city can do after Clark's death. Police thought he had a gun. It turned out to be a cell phone.
It's devastating like it's just happened yesterday.
Today, the focus, unity, with good food, music, and fun for the entire family. A positive development born out of the tragic death of Stephon Clark.
He was my little partner. He said, "Grandma, I love you." I said, "What do you want? Because I know you up to something." Mwah, 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 mwah. And I miss all of that. I miss him so much.
Need to know.
Stephon Clark! Stephon Clark! Stephon Clark!
The unarmed father of two was shot and killed by Sacramento police after allegedly vandalizing property in his Meadowview neighborhood. Police thought he had a gun. It turned out to be a cell phone, and it sparked massive protests. The city told us last year that the Clark family and his estate filed a claim for $35 million. $20 million of that is for Clark's two children, $15 million for his family, including parents and grandparents. The family lists 9 reasons for the claim. Those reasons include negligence, wrongful death, false imprisonment, and failure to give Clark the medical attention that could have saved his life.
Our hearts are shattered. My family is traumatized. We are in agony ever since the callous murder of my brother. We imagine a world where justice is a reality for our communities, but we must, as a community, as a people, act vigilantly to create it ourselves, because those who are sworn to protect us have failed.
After a close to year-long investigation, the Sacramento County District Attorney announced back in March that, quote, the evidence in this case demonstrates that both officers had an honest and reasonable belief that they were in imminent danger of death or great bodily injury. No criminal charges were filed against the officers. But again tonight, according to federal court documents, the family of Stephon Clark has reached a verbal agreement on a settlement with the city of Sacramento. It now must be approved by city council.
This is crazy. A lot of people are going to hear about this run for mayor, and they are going to look to some of the things that happened earlier this year and think that you are just not that stable, not that mentally stable, to be frank. Jumping up on the desk at city council, some of the other things during the protests. What do you have to say to those folks?
Everybody love everybody. I'm not, hopefully I'm not judged off of my human reaction.
That March killing igniting intense protest here and across the country.
I was never arrested until my brother died. Me jumping on the mayor's desk, I've apologized for that. So if people see me jumping on the mayor's desk and they don't acknowledge my apology, then I think that's pretty one-sided.
Supporters are quick to address those who might question Stevante's mental fitness, something he was treated for in April.
You can tell them to lose their sibling and then see how they react and respond. Yeah, you're going to react a certain way, and I think we should give him space to do that.
While being in the spotlight's been uncomfortable at times, he says he wants to use any focus on him and his brother for the good of all Sacramentans.
I'm for the people. I'm with the people.
To that end, he knows the people will expect him to address reforms for those in uniform.
That's what we will be focused on, is our police training.
But so much more.
Sex trafficking, the rent, the homelessness.
I, Darrell Steinberg.
Stevante's most likely 2020 opponent, Sacramento's current mayor, Darrell Steinberg, declined comment about Clark's latest moves. Stevante's been pushing Steinberg to build a library and resource center in Meadowview in response to his brother's death, and doesn't deny his campaign could add pressure to his cause. And to those who would debate Stevante's qualifications.
When you watch Donald Trump become president, unqualified, nothing to do with political, any prowess in that career, right? But you see something like that happen, I think anything is possible.
See, this is the plan, to get a whole bunch of unqualified people into offices. And then you're going to wonder what went wrong when your city gets burned down and the smart city's rebuilt.
I believe part of King's dream is connected and intertwined with my brother's legacy. And for me not to be here will be me failing on honoring my brother's legacy in a positive way, which I would love to continue to keep doing. That's my mission, to achieve my vision, and that's to carry my brother's name in a positive light. Legacy, 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 legacy. This is how we keep it going. We show up and we remember the dream. We honor the legacy. We honor King, and we keep it going. Like I said, Martin Luther King Library, it's been here 50 years this year, and what I'm saying is that 50 years, I think, to this day, Martin Luther King would not have envisioned something like Stephon Clark being shot unarmed in his grandmother's backyard. I think if King was alive today, in honor of his legacy, he would be speaking about the injustices which had happened in our Sacramento community, which happened in my grandmother's backyard. And I believe we can't be silent. So King's vision and Stephon's legacy are one and one. I've always said you can't have accountability without transparency. You can't have transparency without accountability. You can't have King's dream without Stephon's legacy. Stephon's legacy without King's dream.
Martin Luther King appeared, out of nowhere, just out of school, to be elected as president of the Montgomery Improvement Association in 1955. MLK got his PhD from Boston University in the summer of 1955, and by December of that year he was already elected as president of the MIA. How? Over Edgar Nixon. He had only been back in Montgomery a matter of months. Of course, nothing about MLK's early bio makes any sense. For instance, he is supposed to have gotten a BA, 4 years, a Master of Divinity, 3 years, and a PhD, 5 to 6 years, by the time he was 26. Even if he did the BA in 3 years and the PhD in 4, that is still 10 years in college at age 26. Sounds like a tale to me. You would say he was a genius, but if so, why did he need to plagiarize his dissertation? They insert all sorts of apologetics to explain that, but to me, it is simply evidence of a larger fake. It was written by the cubicle agents at the CIA. Just as in his first TV appearance, it seems as if he's struggling to read something he supposedly wrote.
An inexperienced but determined Dr. King discussed the aims of the boycott in his first filmed interview.
That the seating arrangement would be changed to a first-come, first-served basis. That Negro passengers would seat from the rear to the front of the bus and the white passengers from the front to the rear, with no reserved seats for any race. That Negro bus drivers would be employed, particularly on predominantly Negro lines. Decided not to ride the buses in Montgomery until we receive some justice and until we get a hearing, even if it takes a year.
We are told MLK and the other founders of the SCLC was inspired by Billy Graham. Right. Why would these guys be inspired by Billy Graham? Ask yourself if that makes any sense. Billy Graham, who started his crusades in 1947, year one of the CIA. Just a coincidence, right? We were told Billy Graham befriended MLK after he attended one of Graham's crusades in New York in 1957. That doesn't really fit what we were taught about MLK, does it? MLK was supposed to be very progressive. Was Graham progressive? Graham attended Bob Jones University. It was founded by a guy who never attended college and was opened in Panama City, Florida, with 88 students. Can you say another CIA production? Panama City is the home of Tyndall Air Force Base, which includes naval support activity. Other than that, there is no reason for Jones to have opened the school there. He had no prior connections to Florida, according to his bio. Bob Jones University moved to Greenville, South Carolina, in 1947. Note the date. Conveniently, Donaldson Air Force Base is just south of Greenville. Bob Jones University did not admit blacks until 1975, and then began admitting them only because the IRS told them they couldn't keep their tax-exempt status. This was in response to Runyon v. McCrary, which prohibited racial discrimination at private schools. Although Bob Jones University began admitting black students, they didn't allow them to date whites. The IRS revoked their tax status, and the case went to the Supreme Court under Bob Jones University versus the United States. They lost and had to pay $1 million in back taxes. They kept this interracial dating rule until the year 2000. Do these really seem like the kind of people Martin Luther King would be hanging out with?
Your energy feels so damn good to me.
What kind of black person would apply to Bob Jones University? I'd say none. I would bet not one real black person has ever applied, and the Board of Regents probably has to hire a handful of black actors to pretend to be students. Although they now try to sell Billy Graham as a promoter of civil rights, that was not the case. In the time of MLK, Graham preached to segregated audiences and had no problem with it. If you don't believe me, read the comments of this current preacher, Reverend Shockley. He says, as the high priest of the American civil religion, he, more than any other figure, had the moral authority to usher the nation from its racist past to a new multicultural future. But rather than lead, he made only the most modest accommodations possible for the social change happening all around him. From the very beginning of the civil rights movement, Graham made many disparaging remarks about the marches and sit-ins, and warned against moving too fast.
It picks me up, don't wanna come down, got me spinning all.
Martin Luther King, who inhibited progress, while seeming to promote it. MLK's project was very different from Graham's on the surface, but its endgame was the same, protecting the vested interests of the ruling elite by preventing, stalling, or misdirecting any meaningful change. Just as with Graham, MLK's bio is replete with numerology markers. He gave his first sermon in 1947. Martin Luther King's entire output was ghost-written by ghosts, that is to say, Central Intelligence Agency. Support for that comes from the submission by the editors of the Martin Luther King papers, who said that the failure of MLK's teachers to notice his plagiarism was remarkable. They likely knew the papers were written by the CIA, and so were in no position to downgrade them. This is also interesting. This has been reprinted by some websites. Previously we talked about how communism is a fake organization and always has been. I show this not to prove Martin Luther King was communist. It's to prove MLK was in intel, like these people he is sitting with. While they were faking and controlling the communism project, MLK was faking and controlling the civil rights project.
I guess I'll see you next lifetime.
Let's just say that the whole civil rights movement looks managed. The governors could probably see they had to do something, but rather than let things proceed naturally and risk fast and meaningful change, they took control of events and managed them for the minimal inconvenience to themselves. As usual, they needed to give the appearance of progress, while stifling most real progress. It is very easy to see this with the Rosa Parks event, which they pretty much admit was staged. For the next big clue, we go to Stanley Levison, MLK's advisor, close friend, and ghostwriter. That information is not from Stormfront, that is from Wikipedia and Stanford. Levison was a Jewish attorney from New York. He went to Columbia and the New School, both red flags. We have seen the New School in many of these hoaxes. It was founded and funded by Hiram Halley, Jewish, and the Rockefeller Foundation, Jewish. It is one of the premier propaganda and CIA academies in the world, poorly disguised. Levison was a leader of the American Jewish Congress and had also been a leader of the Communist Party. He has no genealogy posted. Levison looks very much like an agent, and he was probably the head of the CIA cubicle that typed out all of Martin Luther King's writings. It is amazing how little is known of this man. But how did MLK harm the movement? The greatest damage MLK did was with his fake death, but if you don't understand why it was faked, it may be hard to understand how, but let's try to make sense of all of it. It was faked as a warning to uppity blacks. This is what will happen to you if you push for real change. Some dopey white guy will you when you aren't paying attention. Like most of the other events we have put under a microscope, Tupac, Biggie, Asada, etc., it was staged to create fear. The KKK was invented for the same purpose. Intelligence discovered long ago that a fake event beat a real event every time. In this way, they could create all the fear without any risk to themselves. You can't be prosecuted for a fake crime, can you? You can't be prosecuted for a fake beating, or a fake lynching. But the fakes create the same fear and chaos as the real thing. It is all part of Operation Chaos. Let's move on to the fake. It is said that Martin Luther King's final trip to Memphis spanned 32 hours from April 3rd to 4th, so let's deconstruct what they've reconstructed.
But still, it ain't that type of party now. I suppose that you want me to do.
Pay attention to the footage. The footage shown is 2 different days pieced together. Notice Jesse Jackson's shirt change. And they cut the camera just as he walked to his room. Here we see Jesse Jackson in 2 different shirts. The problem is that the day before Martin Luther King's fake death, Jesse wore this same shirt on the left, yet on the day of the fake assassination, Jesse Jackson was seen in the same shirt. All they did was change the jacket. The slight color difference is due to the color added, but it's definitely the same shirt. Jesse Jackson was one of the puppets that would be in the spotlight during this hoax, so they needed to change something.
Knocked him up off of his feet in that direction against that ledger over there.
Here's Jesse Jackson in Martin Luther King's last speech, the day before the alleged assassination. You could say he changed, but what about the guy in the corner? He's there in the same outfit for both of Jesse Jackson's outfits. I guess they thought no one would pay attention to him. My point is, it's all a stage play. They probably recorded this scene multiple times. I doubt if the shoot took place at the time they claimed. It also makes no sense. We were told MLK always stayed in room 306 at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis. Wikipedia said it was known as the King Abernathy Suite. That contradicts earlier parts of the history, where it is admitted the king was known to be a target. He had allegedly survived previous assassination attempts. Given that, it would be the height of stupidity to stay in the same room at the same hotel that often. It breaches all the rules of security. You might as well call up the hitman in advance. His loitering on the balcony is also against all rules of security. Another thing that indicates that this was a military operation is that he was allegedly shot at 6:01 p.m. Dopey criminals who leave their rifles in plain sight after a murder aren't normally that punctual, but military intelligence is. The military does things by the clock. The motel owner's brother Thetrice Bailey seems to be trying to scoop Martin Luther King's from the ground into a jar. He's also military. Which brings us to the This doesn't look like real blood. In fact, it looks too thick. It resembles paint or fake blood they used in movies during the 1960s. Alfred Hitchcock used chocolate syrup as fake blood in his 1960 thriller Psycho. Since the film was in black and white, the color was less important than the consistency. The movie Bloodbath 1966 also seems to use a thick form of liquid. Look at the pool of blood he's laying in. It looks Hollywood. The viscosity, the textures aren't right. To me, it looks like this fake blood in the picture. They also said the police were there in a matter of seconds.
When coming this way, asking us what happened, you know.
Just that quick?
Just that quick, yeah. In a matter of seconds.
So how did so much pour out to the left side of his body? To me, it appears as if they poured the liquid on the cement first, and Martin Luther King laid on the ground. I always wondered why Martin Luther King had this light mark on the side of his face in one of his last photos. It's in the same location they claim he was. Google this image, you will see the same light mark on all photos of this exact image. Maybe it was just a signal so that everyone around knew where the impact was supposed to be. I'm sure they recorded the entire It's safely stored away in the CIA locked archives. Amazingly, the stain dried, leaving no trace in a matter of hours. Well, they said the cleanup guy was scooping his to put it in a jar. Maybe the was actually clay. Honestly, I wouldn't doubt it. Martin Luther King's fake was released in black and white, no cell phones, not everyone running to the crime scene with handheld cameras. The government could get away with anything they wanted by way of radio and TV. This was taken by Joseph Lau before Ray had even left the premises. Lau was there so fast because he was staying 3 doors down. Lau was a photographer and filmmaker working on a documentary about King, and he just happened to be there ready to roll. That photo is probably a paste up. Why? Well, study the people on the ground. They don't seem too concerned, do they? You have a dying man above them bleeding to by a high-caliber rifle, and at least 6 people screaming and pointing, but the people on the ground are just continuing their casual conversations. Look at the group of maids over there having a smoke, totally unaware of the scene around them. So it may interest you to know that this Joseph Lau rushed to the studio by a fellow King photographer Ernest Withers to develop his 4 rolls of film. Withers was at the Lorraine with Lau, and is one of those going in and out of room 306. Withers was posthumously outed as an FBI informant. The mainstream media tried to spin that revelation in 2008, claiming Withers was a spy against King. But of course, the better explanation is that all these people were FBI or CIA, including King. The whole event was a project. There were no from anywhere.
In the motel room, getting out, getting ready to go to dinner. He was going to my house for dinner, as a matter of fact. And as he was going to my house for dinner, as a matter of fact.
What's the latest report?
And as he came out about 3 minutes after he had come out, the shot rang out. But as he came out the door, and then we heard I had left him and started across.
Until it hit his face, it sounded like a stick of dynamite or a large firecracker.
Stay over our heads because you did not hear a shot. You just saw the explosion in his face.
It sounded like a stick of dynamite or a large firecracker.
Notice how they made sure to mention the police were around. I think they're already introducing the conspiracy. The government killed him.
Really didn't have my back to where the shot came from. And when I turned all the way around, we saw the sheriff or the police up on the hill.
Oh yes, we heard the shot, definitely. And then we looked in this direction and we saw policemen coming coming this way, asking us what happened, you know.
Just that quick?
Just that quick, yeah.
When we turned, all we could see was police coming. Police were coming from the direction of the shot.
The elites are decades ahead of us. But let's move on. None of those pictures really match with what we are told about him, do they? In the first, they have given him an army cut to look like a hick. It doesn't really work. He still looks way too intelligent to be who we are told he is. In the second, he is supposed to have been in jail for many years, but again, the way he looked, too clean. In the third, he looks like an accountant. At what point in his life of crime was that supposed to have been taken? Ray's wiki page reads like bad fiction. For instance, he is supposed to have escaped from the maximum security prison in Missouri in 1967 by hiding in a bread truck, leaving the prison bakery. Right. He is believed to have been sentenced to 4 years in Leavenworth for stealing money orders in Hannibal. The only thing I believe on the whole page is that he was in the army. I would have guessed that, or Navy. I doubt he ever left it. He looks like military intelligence. James Earl Ray had a second alias, which he allegedly gave to the guy he bought his Game Master rifle from in Birmingham, Harvey Lohmeyer. Ask yourself this: why would he come up with a Jewish name? If you were creating aliases, would you create a Jewish one? Do you really think this Irish Catholic would come up with a Jewish alias? After the alleged Ray dumped his rifle and binoculars near the murder site, without even bothering to bury them. He also didn't bother to wipe them down. They had his fingerprints all over them. He then pled guilty. This doesn't happen. It also conflicts with the prior story, since we are supposed to believe Ray was smart and clever enough to escape a maximum security penitentiary and avoid capture for almost a year, but not smart enough to wear gloves, wipe fingerprints, or hide a gun. 1 minute he is a genius, and the next minute he is an imbecile. Ray supposedly fled to Canada, obtaining a passport under the fake name Ramon George Snade. He could not have acquired a Canadian passport under a fake name since security is not that sloppy. He might have manufactured one, but that would make him a genius again. Or an agent. William Pepper later proved that the passport was issued by Kennedy Travel Bureau in Toronto. Of course, it was. He somehow got a flight to England using this fake passport, which is highly unlikely. He then tried to use the fake passport again at Heathrow, making him an imbecile once more. Once in England, he could get anywhere in Europe easily by boat or train, so there was no reason to keep risking the fake passport. At Heathrow, we were told the ticket agent flagged the name on the passport since the name Snade was on a Canadian police watch list. Why would it be on a watch list? How could the police have known he faked a passport under the name Snade? Were they filming him while he created it? We would have to believe another man named Snade just happened to be on a Canadian watch list. Do you know the odds against that? Snade is a very rare name, which means there were only a handful in Canada in 1968. The odds against Ray making up a very rare name Snade and it being on the watch list are astronomical. We are told James Earl Ray's attorney Percy Foreman recommended he plead guilty to avoid a possible death penalty. Great attorney. So Ray is now an imbecile again, not realizing immediately he needed an attorney who thought he could get him off. You don't need an attorney to tell you to plead guilty. Plus, the story again contradicts itself. If we go to Foreman's wiki page, we are told he lost only 53 of 1,500 death penalty cases. With a record like that, he should have been more confident, but that makes no sense, either. 1,500 death penalty cases. How old was Foreman in 1969? He must have been 300. No, he was 67, so he should have been retired. But says he worked as a defense attorney for 35 years. That would be 43 death penalty cases a year, every year. That's about one a week every week for 35 years. Absurd.
Everybody really feels it all over the nation, and I really don't think that it was necessary, because now, in my opinion, it's going to provoke more violence. I think all this rioting and so forth is really nonsense, but I was really shocked about Martin Luther King. He wanted this nonviolence and so forth, but the people more or less just going out rebelling against it because it was a real big blow, in my opinion, to the entire nation.
Another desired outcome of this faked assassination was race wars, which they came nearer achieving back then than they do now. Although they are still at it, some shake their heads, but no one even thinks of starting a race war. So all we see is the news writers writing for one another. They are hired to supply the required outrage. They create the event and then create the response, so it is okay if you sleep through it. It doesn't matter anymore. All along, they have been faking these things to keep your eyes off the real events. Anything to keep you from realizing the bankers, the military, and intelligence are just three big money pits, siphoning money directly out of the treasuries and giving you absolutely nothing in return. We can now add science to that list since it has become the fourth largest con job. They're all Masonic, took an oath to lie to us. Martin Luther King predicted his own death at his last speech at a Mason temple.
Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. I just want to do God's will, and He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, so I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory.
As they arrested James Earl Ray, the officer gave the old Masonic hand sign. Martin Luther King's son visits James Earl Ray in this staged prison meeting.
Did you kill my father?
No, I didn't know.
Look at the handshake. Masonic. They all know. Martin Luther King never died on April 4th. I'd say that's why they're all filled with duping delight during their interview after the fake assassination.
I want to be a preacher like my father.
You do. And this is Bunny.
Mommy, I'm not gonna cry because my dad is not dead. He may be dead physically. And one day, I'm gonna see him again.
But how can we explain the body? We saw the funeral, we saw the open. Due to YouTube slowly taking away freedom of speech, partly because of channels like mine, I will not show much. Let's just say, most of the funeral pictures they show were filled with the people who were at the fake or those close to him. I would not doubt that they took a set of pictures privately and prior to the funeral. They could have used the real Martin Luther King to lay there while the photographer takes the pictures. For public viewing, they could have used a wax body enclosed behind the glass. Maybe that explains why they kept switching. Some rare pictures of MLK behind the glass look as if it could be a fake. I can't show much here. However they pulled it off was genius. We only saw the public crying, while Martin Luther King's close friends and immediate family kept smiles and dry eyes, no tears. We have all been fooled by our leaders and heroes. None of them are who we thought they were. They are all actors sent in to control us. In the case of civil rights, we have been controlled to celebrate a progress that is illusory. We are assured things are getting better as they stay the same or get worse. We are fed some meaningless advances, while all meaningful change is denied us. This applies equally to men and women, black and white, young and Blacks see people like Oprah and Tyler Perry getting rich and think that things are changing. We saw Obama become president and think things are changing. But those are just sweetened pacifiers. They are meaningless since those people are just actors. They are puppets on a stage, dangled to divert you. They apparently named the holiday after the wrong guy. They should have.
This is why I'm here. This is why the family's here. Legacy, legacy, legacy. Yeah.
So as a community, you would say, even though Martin Luther King Jr. made great strides, we as a community maybe still have quite a ways to go.
Yes, yes. We have to keep marching. We have to keep protesting. We have to keep speaking out. We have to keep calling for legislative change. We have to keep holding those in the powers to be accountable in all levels, starting from the black police chief, the district attorney, the attorney general, and even us as a community. Everyone needs to be held accountable. We need accountability on all levels. I've been steadfast in my advocacy. My message has never changed and never altered. I believe in accountability since day one. Even for myself, I believe in accountability. And I'm here just a vessel and a voice for my brother. That's it. This is not about me at all.
There's no justice being served because they have murdered my son. There's a homicide that has been committed. I call him Papa. He's Big Papa. 10 pounds when he was born. So that's where the name Papa comes from. That's a family name. I was sitting outside my house and I was in the parking lot playing Candy Crush. And my youngest son comes running out the house and he asked me, what was I doing? He said, what are you doing? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, Mom, it's Papa. And he collapsed. I remember praying on the way there. I was probably 2 miles from my mom's, about 2 miles. And I remember still praying that he was going to be alive. I've been so angry. I've just been so angry that I haven't been able to say anything nice or positive. So this is my first time speaking, but everything gets caught. It's very, very important for me to have justice served. That's what I care about. That's why I'm here. That's what means the most to me, is that there is justice, period. They were gunning for him. You know what I'm saying? In my best words, they were gunning for him. They came in gunning for him. They didn't come in looking for him. And that in itself, the fact that they were operating off of a vandalism call with a helicopter. Why do you have a helicopter for a vandalism call? I don't understand that. So you don't ever see that coming, but this is why I'm here. Because I won't be quiet. My other sons, they're not going to be quiet. We're not going to go away. It's not going to be okay until justice is served. It's not okay. It's not okay. It's unfair. It's so unfair. I think it's so unfair. So life is not fair. That's the message. Life is not fair.
It was like pow, pow, pow.
They emptied both of their magazines.
It was like, it was so many shots. And then I found out that they had shot him 8 times. They shot him like a dog. I mean, like he was no human or something. I mean, they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to kill him like that. How could they even sleep at night? You just murdered somebody's child.
You're living in a country and that country's patrolmen choose to murder one of your family members. You can't really wrap your head around it. It's nothing I wish upon any person.
I feel for my daughter so hard. I hurt so much.
We live in the home where our family member was murdered, where officers turned off their mics, where they shot excessively, then reloaded, then waited several minutes, and then handcuffed, and then announced time of death. We don't want to live in this home. But nobody knows that. Nobody understands the level of stress that this is putting on us. that America wants us to respond all peacefully and pretty to.
But I believe that if they are not brought to court to be by a trial, if they are not brought to, you know what I'm saying, a criminal trial, then there's no justice being served because they have murdered my son.
We're thrust into the fight for justice for not just Stephon Clark, but for all that continue to, and sadly will continue to even this year, be shot by officers. I mean, this is something across the states. It's nothing new, sadly. It's just changed its appearance and its narrative. So justice looks like this whole system, needs to be restructured.
That's not justice what they're doing to us. They just killing all these little kids, women, everyone. It's killing us.
It's different when you're watching the story of Trayvon Martin or Oscar Grant from your home. It's different because it's not your neighbor. It's different because maybe they don't look like you. And unfortunately, if you allow that to distinguish you from someone else, you have a true problem. We feel naturally, as our skin tone, we obviously can feel for anyone that continues to suffer from the hands of gunfire by officers across this country.
Okay. And then I was right here, just like this, sitting down, and then there's a window over here, and by the window is a patio. But anyway, my granddaughter was laying right there on the couch, and she's only 7 years old. And I heard guns go pow, 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 and I went to the floor. And I mean, it was fast. It was a lot of them just go pow, 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 pow. And then I got on the floor. I crawled over there. I crawled over where my husband. I crawled over here. And I got on the floor, and my granddaughter was right there. So I got on the floor, and I got down here, and then I crawled right there, and I grabbed her legs. I said, Kaylin, wake up. It's gunshots, baby. She said, Grandma, what's wrong? What's wrong? So we crawled back all the way into the bedroom where my husband was at in bed. And the gunshots was coming right through there. And I thought they was going to come in, so that's why I got on the floor. I was scared. So we went in there and but we crawled all the way here. Okay. We crawled all the way. I didn't even go that way. I went all the way here. And I crawled all the way right here, and we laid right here. I didn't have no phone. I said, Papa, call the police. Because I called Tommy, my husband, Papa. I said, call the police. He's laying right there in the bed. And he was saying, somebody was calling me through the window. Somebody called me through the window. And he said, they said Tommy T. And I said, oh, Papa, you didn't hear that? You heard gunshots. We heard gunshots. Call the police. And so he called the police finally on his phone. We couldn't get the big phone or nothing. And I was scared, so I didn't get back up. And then after that, he called the police. And so then we was waiting on the police to come. But the police was already here, and everybody was talking about, you all right? I said, what are you guys talking about? And then I said, I don't know, after I got up, we got up, and the police, I let them in. And after I let them in, they did not tell me nothing was going on. They just said that it's been a crime scene, and that was it. And so I went back in there, and they asked me questions, and I told them that I heard gunshots. They said, did you hear anybody talking? I said, all I heard was gunshots. There was nobody talking. Ain't no police said, this is the police, or hold your hands up. None of that. I just heard they were pow, 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 pow. And then when they came and they finally told me hours later that there was a victim dead in my backyard. And I said, I hope you guys ain't killed none of my grandkids, because they go back there, and that's how we have to let them in through the garage, because we can't hear them. We can't hear them because there's a sign on the screen door,
It says please knock hard, like you guys have to knock hard, because you can't hear, and this house is big. So after we did that, he gonna tell me, well, you can't go back you can't look in your backyard. I said, what you mean I can't look in my backyard? Soon when that man started going out this door, I opened up the curtain. That was my grandson. I opened up the curtain and he was gone. He was dead. And I'm showing you where he was dead at. He was gone. Excuse me. He was just saying that blood was all over him. And it was an iPhone that I took a picture. It was an iPhone. And why would it? Ain't no windows broken in this house. They just lied. They've been looking for a 6 feet tall black guy. And that have broken in the house, broken in cars. And little Papa, Stephen Clark, is only about, how tall is he? He's short. He's shorter than him. Than my son. But here's his body. His body was there. Right there. Right there was my grandson dead with the iPhone right there on the thing. And I have a picture of it. And his them ear things, them earplugs. He was right there dead. And I told them officers, you guys are murderers, murderers, murderers. You guys killed that baby for nothing. You took him away from his kids for nothing. He didn't even do nothing to nobody. All he did was not gonna win. Who grandparents don't give kids, teenager keys to the house? All we gotta do, it doesn't matter if he didn't have no key or nothing. He's knocking on his backyard.
You're trained,
that's all he's doing.
You're trained to shoot. Why are you trained to kill?
They took him. They
Why not
took
grab
him.
your stun gun?
They took him. And them two officers, they didn't know. God, don't forget, they're going to reap what they sow. Watch, they're going to reap what they sow. It may be years from now, but you guys going to get it for killing my grandson, taking him out of this world for nothing. For nothing, because you guys, they go out there and get the real guy. Now that real guy's out there, he said, oh, well, they think it was that dude. They didn't kill him, so he's going to get away with it. He's going to get away with it. Y'all know it was a 6 feet dude, and y'all turn around and say, oh, no, he didn't have no iron. It was his cell phone. So what, you didn't even call out his name. You didn't have to know his name. You could have said Hope. Y'all didn't say Hope. I heard the gunshots right there in my backyard. You guys didn't say nothing. Even my husband, go ask my husband. He'll tell you. He called out his name, his grandma's name. And that's all he was there telling him, to open up the garage. But he didn't even get the chance to say that. So he's dead. He's dead because of you guys. You guys killed him. Dead. Still looking. Go find the other guy. Oh, it's probably too late because he probably left town.
Thank you all for coming. You guys ready for me to just give my statement or my response? This is my response to the district attorney's decision. We're outraged. Number one, we're outraged. The district attorney refusing to charge the police officers, even though it's clear from the video and the autopsy, as well as the death certificate by their coroner that said homicide. They executed my son. They executed him in my mom's backyard. And it is not right. It is not right. However, the DA has shown us time and time again throughout her terms who she is and what she stands for, which is not fairness or justice. She has never charged an officer for homicide, and there's been 100+ homicides by police on civilians. My son is just the one that will break the mold because we're not going to accept that. We've been sitting for a year patiently, allowing her an opportunity to do right, and she has failed us. My son was shot 8 times in the backyard. They want to keep showing this video that I've never seen, that my son had to watch. She wants to go on a smear campaign about his character and his actions and make public things that him and his significant other were going through to justify or condone her officer's actions. Whatever he was doing or on, whatever his character is, or his actions prior to those police gunning him down is no one's business. It doesn't. That's not justification. That's not a permit to kill him. I don't care if he was a criminal or, as they say, a criminal or whatever. I don't care about, none of that matters. What matters is how those officers came with lethal force around a corner on a vandalism call after my son and gunned him down when he had nothing but a cell phone in his hand. That's what matters. And that was wrong. It was homicide, and they should be charged. I'm praying that the Attorney General will pick up where she failed. My faith in the justice system is what it has been. It's not for us. It's not for the black community. It's what they've shown us time and time again. That's about it. I feel like shame on the DA, shame on her. I know she will not sleep well at night. She can't. The video that my family has watched, they said it looks different from the first video. I don't know if there's any truth to that. I just know that it's just not right. And no justice, no peace. You know, I haven't had peace. I haven't been able to sleep. I haven't been able to eat. I haven't been able to function. And neither has any member of my family, based on the fact that Stephon was murdered. Period. So.
I'm sorry, I got here a little late. Could you just restate your name for us, please?
I am Stevante Clark.
Could you spell that, please?
SEQUETTECLARK.
Ms. Clark, how much faith do you have in the Attorney General's investigation?
I'm just hoping. I know that he came out with a report that addressed with a lot of the issues based on the video from my son, and so that being said, I believe that he was making a just, report, a just report. So I have hope in him because he did do what was unexpected. You know, he didn't directly address my son's case. However, he did address specific actions that the police took during my son's case. So.
And when you were able to meet with the district attorney?
I met with her. She patronized me with a. She at first was not going to give me the decision. She told me that she had commitments to not disclose her decision until the press conference. At that point, I told her that the meeting was over. And then she explained to me, that she wanted to explain the reports that had came out because of the phone messages. And I just told her that, hey, I'm a parent. I knew my son. He didn't withhold anything from me, so I knew what was going on in his life. And that has nothing to do with the officer's actions. What was on his cell phone with him and his baby's mother has zero to do with the actions of the police officers at the time of his homicide. They do not. She said, and her explanation to me was that, well, if we were trying this in a courtroom, we're not trying in a courtroom. So his cell phone does not apply. So his messages, they don't apply. What should be under investigation and in your report is solely the actions of your officers. It's not hard, it's simple. It's just simple in my opinion, it's simple. Stop trying to justify by looking at a person's character or your assumption or judgment or opinion of him because you didn't know him. So.
I imagine this is not the end for you.
No, it's just the beginning. This is just the beginning.
And what do you mean by that?
The fight for justice has just to begin. It has not begun. We have sat and waited patiently for their response. So we have not had any fight for justice. We have not begun to fight. The fight will begin now.
And what does that fight look like?
It looks like whatever it looks like. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's inexplicable. But I know that I never get to see my son's face again. And he was 22 years young. Okay? And if everyone could just stop and think about what they did at 22. Everybody made mistakes. Everybody was human. Everybody partied. Everybody messed up, but 22 does not determine who you are or who you will become. And that being said, he never has that chance. He's buried in the ground. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
So you could reasonably conclude that he received 7 gunshot wounds from his back.
Pathologist Bennett Omalu, hired by the Clark family to conduct a private autopsy, says his conclusion is supported by video from a law enforcement helicopter that captured the shooting with a heat-detecting camera. Attorney Ben Crump is representing Clark's family.
The narrative that had been put forth was that they had to open fire because he was charging at them. Well, obviously, based on Dr. Malu's findings in the family's autopsy, it suggests all the bullets were from behind.
The same video viewed by others can seem to suggest that Clark was moving toward the officers. The day after the shooting, the police department said in a statement, the suspect turned and advanced toward the officers while holding an object which was extended in front of him. The officers believed the suspect was pointing a firearm at them. One of the conclusions of the independent autopsy is that Clark could have lived for 3 to 10 minutes after he was shot. That raises questions about why he did not receive immediate medical attention. The Sacramento Police Department has not commented on the independent report, says it will wait until the release of the official autopsy from the county coroner.
Right. Did you fire? Yes. Come over here. Both of you did? Okay. How many rounds did you fire in which direction, sir?
We both shot southbound. I shot about 5 times.
Okay.
I don't know exactly how many, but about 5 times.
Okay. Just real quick, huh? How many rounds did you fire?
I think maybe 6, maybe 5 or 6.
In that direction?
Yeah. Let me, hold on, I got a deep.
That's all right, that's all right. Don't worry about it.
So far I think they just, yeah, okay. Obviously we're gonna need to do a canvas.
Okay.
That'll be the biggie. Looks like everything's kind of secured right now. Okay, from all what I understand, we got a call, somebody's breaking into things, and then he breaks into this guy's slider. Hold on. Let's call out to him and see if he's okay.
Police department, can you hear us?
We need to know if you're okay. We need to get you medics, but we can't go over there to get you help unless we know you don't have a weapon.
Okay, you guys, you good right here? I'm good here. All right, you guys, I'm gonna go get the correct address for this place. Whoa, which way? Yeah, it probably is. He put it out. Okay.
Okay. Sir, can you move? Can you hear us?
Car on the roof.
There's
one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Are you good with me grabbing just in case he's? I mean, we can't tell, so I'll just grab it just to have it.
Control, if you could note that the culprit.
Work.
Sorry, they're approaching the body of the victim.
I can get it out. Okay, let's get it. I don't know if we have it.
Charles 5-1 now find the original complaint. Copy Charles 5-1 of the original complaint. Next unit, we need to really check, or need another unit to help that other unit that was checking those other 3 backyards.
KJ and Severe. You need to hear. I'll do.
Come on, bud. 5. I'm going to need at least 5 more units out here. I need a 2-officer car here.
No pulse, no breathing?
No. At the front.
Trade out compressions. I'm good.
Here. You do rest for a second. You got gloves on already? Can you put that on his face, please? Is that his, I'm assuming?
I'm assuming. I'm throwing my camera on mute. I don't know where you are. Light. Come over. Give me a light. We'll start CPR.
All right. I'm pretty sure he's somewhere. He's the only one?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, he's gone. Is this fleet? Yeah, oh yeah. Total flat. All right.
Everybody that's outside this building that's homeless have been nothing but neglected and disrespected by your coward. You hear what I'm saying? You's a coward. Yep. I sat there and I read Sacramento Bee and you talk about all these millions and millions of dollars, right? That's what you talk about, right?
Hey, could you watch your language?
No. You know what?
Yes, that part.
You know what I'm saying? Let's keep this real. Why have nobody? You know how many times I got arrested? How many times?
Leave him alone. Hold on. You're going to stand in recess for a few minutes. Hopefully the chambers can calm down. We will stand in recess for a few minutes. We will come back if it calms down. We will come back if it calms down. We are in recess. We are in recess.